I'm not finished with you. What's good, Internet? My name is Attack Slug, and welcome to my WWE Payback 2017 predictions video. And this is a weird show because Brock Lesnar, your Universal Champion, is not on the show. He is back on his farm eating Jimmy John's or doing whatever it is that Brock Lesnar does when he is the champ and not defending the belt every 30 days, which he should be, but he's not, but that's a whole different thing. Anyway, we still have 8 matches on this card. There are still belts being defended. There is still a bit of a weirdness with some interpromotional Raw and SmackDown matches, so let's go over it, shall we? On the kickoff, we have a segment, a Miz TV segment, with special guest Finn Balor. So, it was my understanding that Bray Wyatt showed up on Raw in the Superstar Shakeup to be in a feud with Finn Balor. Is that not the case? Are they going to go a different direction? Isn't The Miz feuding with Dean Ambrose? I don't know what's going to happen in this segment, and it's kind of whatever, but I had to mention it because it's on the show, it's announced for the show. So, the kickoff match on the show is Enzo and Cass versus the Club Gallows and Anderson, and man, I really thought, before they officially had the Hardys come back, that Enzo and Cass were going to win that belt at WrestleMania. That didn't happen, and now Enzo and Cass are on the pre-show. Like, they have been unable to retain any kind of real upward momentum, and so maybe a win here does good for them, but they're in this position where it's, regardless of if they win or lose, they're kind of over. You know, they got their shtick, they've got their, promo stuff, and that's fine. Big Cass is a good hot tag. That's fine. What is Braun doing? I don't know. And that's kind of, so, I would say, hopefully, you continue having Gallows and Anderson being mean and making green and picking up a win here, because I don't see, I don't know. I don't know what this match does for either guy, or either team, win or lose, because they kind of both have the same stalled momentum, more or less. Is this going to have a count out here? Like, really? You're going to go with the count out here. Seriously. Get back in the ring. Alright. Anyway, the main show. We have the King of the Cruiserweights, Neville, versus Austin Aries in a rematch from WrestleMania, where Austin Aries lost at Mania, and that was one of the better matches on that show. Even though it was on a pre-show in front of half a crowd, it was a pretty good match. And so, who shall be victorious in the Cruiserweight division moving forward here? Will they finally get the belt to Austin Aries, who seems like one of the few guys who has any real emphasis, any real... He seems like he's very concentrated, and I'm not sure what the word is for it, but he has a certain pep in his step, a certain enthusiasm, a certain... There's a word for it, I can't think of it. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to go Austin Aries. I like Neville. I think Neville is a cornerstone of the Cruiserweight division, but man, give Austin Aries the belt for a month or whatever and see what he does with it. I'd be very curious to see how that works. And Braun, kicking out of that spear. Okay, moving on. Your Raw Tag Team Champions, the Hardy Boys, who are not quite broken, but perhaps maybe soon, versus Sheamus and Cesaro. Obviously, the biggest pop of the night at Mania was the Hardys. Their run so far has been very, very nostalgia-based. Matches have been kind of whatever. Obviously they can still work, but they're up there in years, and it's, is what it is. I think, stop calling them the Hardy Boys. I think in, the early 2000s, they were just calling them the Hardys. Go back to that, it's fine. But, if perhaps a very vicious bro kick would make Matt Hardy bro Ken, if the rumors are true, and that possibly, that was a nice pickup, possibly WWE has bought the rights to the broken gimmick from Anthem. I don't know, all a rumor. But does that let them retain the belts here? I don't know. I really don't know. I think that they will retain, but perhaps some post-match shenanigans with bro kicks will cause the thing. Or they could put it off until Extreme Rules, when it's actually extreme with, a ladder spot, and for the Nero's addiction for being a spot monkey, etc., etc. So I think at some point they're going to have that whole thing get restarted, but I think for the time being, Hardy Boys retain the tag titles here. So, moving on, we have Seth Rollins versus Samoa Joe in what could be one of the best matches on this card, but you got to think about where the momentum goes for both individuals. Seth Rollins coming off a victory at WrestleMania, and Samoa Joe, who wasn't even on WrestleMania. Now, Roman Reigns. Now, Joe beat Sami Zayn at Fastlane, I think it was. But the only reason they had the Fastlane match was because Rollins got hurt from Joe and that whole leg thing. So this match itself does have some neat backstory, but you have to think, who would a victory here help out more? And considering Seth just won at WrestleMania, and considering Joe is still pretty fresh on the main roster, I would give it to Samoa Joe by hook or by crook. And I'll get to you in a minute, Roman, don't you worry. Now, moving on to your WWE Women's title. Your champion, Bayley, versus the new challenger, Alexa Bliss, fresh off of her 2 runs on SmackDown as Women's Champion. Do they continue to keep the belt on Bayley and keep feeding her the very small amount of heels that are on Raw, or do they decide to put the belt onto Alexa here? I think perhaps it is a bit too early to put the belt on Alexa. I think that would be a nice, shocking turn of events, but I think perhaps they'll drag it out one more pay-per-view and then put the belt on her at the next one would be perhaps a better course of action. So, Bayley retains, maybe a Sasha heel turn, maybe Sasha wants to help out, and then we finally get the Sasha heel turn, and then we get Sasha and Bayley for the next pay-per-view. I don't know, but we'll see. That moves us on to a very easy-to-call match between the face of America, Kevin Owens, a SmackDown guy, your U.S. champion, and defending against Chris Jericho, who was the champion at WrestleMania, and who is a Raw guy. But we know that Chris Jericho has more touring to do with his band Fozzy, so obviously Kevin Owens retaining the belt and beating Jericho, and Jericho goes off into the sunset to go do his band thing, and Kevin Owens continues being one of the most important parts on SmackDown and goes on to fight AJ Styles for that belt at Backlash. So, we move on to the most confusing match on this show. It is the House of Horrors match, which nobody seems to know what that is. And it's Randy Orton, who is your world champion, versus Bray Wyatt. But it's not for the title. So, not only do you not have Brock Lesnar appearing to defend his Universal title at this show, you have the world champion on your show in a match, but not defending his belts, because that makes sense. Now, in the storyline, Hardbody Mahal just stole that belt on SmackDown, so he doesn't have the belt to bring with him to defend or something. That's a way to spin it, but it's still really, really dumb. I don't know why Bray Wyatt is on Raw now. If this is what they're going to do with him, I don't know. Anyway, because you don't have Randy defending the belt, and because Bray is the one who wanted it to be a House of Horrors match, logic would dictate that Bray Wyatt wins here. Now, does he have help from Jinder? Does he have help from that whole crew that he has on SmackDown? Maybe. There are a lot of different possibilities, but man, Bray Wyatt could really use a win. He had all his creepy stuff at Mania and still couldn't win, so just give him the win here. I don't see why you would put Randy over here. That doesn't make any sense. So, have Randy lose, make him look vulnerable for his match at Backlash against Jinder, and then obviously retain the belt there and whatever else. So, that one seems pretty in the basket there for Wyatt, but hey, we'll see. Stranger things have happened. So, your main event, which is the guy, Roman Reigns, versus the monster among men, Braun Strowman. This seems like a potential turning point in how you're booking both these guys. Because if you spent the last month building up Braun Strowman, doing these impossible feats, doing the ambulance push, doing the ring collapse, doing that lame dumpster bit on Raw with Kalisto, if you do all that, have him kind of almost recreate these old things from bygone eras in wrestling, and then you have him literally take out Roman off the show for like 2 weeks, and then you have Roman come back with a separated shoulder, and then have Braun lose, who does that help? You really don't want to put Braun Strowman into the Bray Wyatt category, where you kind of build him for a little bit and then he can't get any wins when it matters. We know the end goal is eventually we're going to have Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns perhaps at Mania next year for that Universal title. We know that eventually you're going to have Roman Reigns as the champ again. Whether or not everyone's booing him, it's going to happen. Just accept it. But do you have Braun Strowman, who has already lost to Roman Reigns on pay-per-view, do you have him lose this match? That's the conundrum. Because Braun's been looking really good for like a month now. But on the flip side, make Roman look strong. So I'm going to say Braun Strowman. I think it has to be Braun Strowman. And your excuse for Roman Reigns not looking strong can be the shoulder, the ribs, the internal injury, kayfabe stuff. And maybe when you have Brock Lesnar defending at WWE Great Balls of Fire in July, perhaps that matches him defending against Braun Strowman, win, lose, whatever. But you can't just keep on building guys for months and months and months only to have them lose to who you perceive as your top face of the brand. They've done that again and again with Cena. And it ruined Bray Wyatt. It ruined Rusev. It put Kevin Owens back in the mid-card, more or less. And look, you literally put over AJ Styles, and that made him the face of the SmackDown brand, and everyone loves him. I mean, it helps that he's one of the best in the world right now, but having Cena put him over really solidified him as a guy, or the guy. Not the guy, but you know what I'm saying. So yeah, put Braun over. Do something right for once in your life, and that's your show. I'm Attack Slug. Thanks for watching. More videos every day, and I'll see you next time, right here on this channel, and I'm out.